Today's Dhamma talk will be about one of the insight knowledges. One of the insight knowledges that some of you are presently experiencing, and some of you others have already experienced some time ago and are well familiar. And we shall, like the Venerable Sayādaw Pandita, look or approach this topic by looking at the theory and the practice. Now, first of all, the terminology. The knowledge that we're going to talk about is the knowledge of the who knows? Yes, indeed. How do you know? The knowledge about the fast arising, passing away of formations in the Pali language known as yes, Udaya Jnana. And the spelling here is Udaya Udaya Beya by Baya Jnana. Udaya Udaya, and then Baya. It's one word. No, Udaya Beya Jnana. Now, this Pali word is a compound of two words or two parts, namely Udaya and Beya. And then the first part can be further broken down into Ud and Aya, and the second part, namely Beya, can be broken down in Biya, so that's Vy and Aya. So I'll say again, first part is broken and can be broken down into Ud, Ud, and then Aya, Aya, and then the second part can be the word Beya, and can be broken down in Vya, which is spelled V-Y, and Aya is A-Y-A. Now, the meaning of these parts are as follows. Ud in the Pali language means out in an upward direction. So, for instance, out of or forth, as can be found in the word umujati, and there, or this word, this verb means to rise up and out of the water, umujati. And so in the Pali language, when certain consonants meet, then they are assimilated, and this is known as sandhi. And so the D from ud here together with M becomes double M, umujati. And then as for the second part of the first half of the word, aya. This aya comes from, or it can be derived from the Pali root of the verb to go, which is simply e, just a simple I. So it's ud and aya, and the aya comes from e. And then as for the second part, well, we have this short vya, and this is a form of a prefix which comes from v, the prefix v, like in vipassana. And here it means asunder, or denoting disturbance, separation, destruction, breaking up, or simply down. And then the last part of the second half of the word is again aya, so that's the same as in the first part of the first word. And so Aya means to go. And so going asunder, or going into destruction. And when we put these two particles all together, then it means increase and decrease, or it means rise and fall, or it could mean birth and death, or it could mean up and down, or it means arising and passing. Now, this particular insight knowledge, Udayabaya Jnana, is of two, or has two stages. Two stages or two phases, and who knows what they are? Yes, the tender stage and the mature stage. Yes, is correct. So Udayabaya Jnana consists of two stages, the tender stage and the mature stage. Now, as for the tender stage, when a meditator is well advanced in meditation, he or she can meditate on the arising objects without much effort. Now, please note, without much effort. Previously, think back of your practice during the first few insight knowledges, the first of three, and you will find that your practice then was was what? Huh? Hell. Oh, you're exaggerating a little bit. But you will have to admit, no pain, no gain. And so anyway, at this stage, the experience, or a meditator experiences illumination, in the Pali language known as obasa, and also experiences a very sharp, penetrative knowledge. This is known as jnana. Then he or she experiences possibly rapturous delight, piti in the Pali language known as joy and rapture, and then calmness, passaddhi, and other synonyms for calmness are serenity, tranquility, peace of mind, stillness, and so on. Then number 5 is happiness, sukha, and number 6 is determination, a determined faith, adhimokha, and in the Pali language. And then number 7 is energy, paggaha. This is strong type of energy. Number 8 is given as strong mindfulness, upatana in the Pali language. And number 9 is what? Who knows? Yes, equanimity is correct. And number 10 is attachment, nikanti. Now, these 10 mental factors are known as defilements, more specifically? Defilements of insight. Yes, imperfections of insight or corruptions of insight, if you like to. They come, they're referred. The Pali term for these 10 is vipassana upakilesa. And now, a meditator then can also easily notice how each object of meditation arises and passes away. Thus, the meditator gains the tender stage of Udayabaya Jnana. And the tender stage of Udayabaya Jnana corresponds to which purification? There's the Visuddhimagga speaks of 7 purifications, and this particular, the tender stage of Udayabaya Jnana corresponds to which? And the not path. Yes, the correct path, and the not path. So, purification in full. This purification is known as purification by knowledge and vision of what is the path and what is not the path. Magga Magga Jnana Dasana Visuddhi. Now, what is the path and what is the not path? Who knows? Yours?
The path is just by noting, and one can attain the path of creation knowledge.
Yes.
And not the path is to be attached to this
yes, to the imperfections of insight. Quite correct. Now, let us take a look at the matured stage of Udaya Jnana, the insight knowledge of the fast arising, passing away formations. Now, while proceeding with one's meditation practice, without pondering and without getting caught up in these imperfections, the meditator can clearly observe the beginning and end of every object of meditation. So please note down beginning and end. And thus he or she gains the matured stage of Udaya Jnana. Now later on we'll go into all the details. Now before an object, a physical or mental object arises, it is not getting ready to arise. No? Now this is kind of awkward, or may sound awkward, but the meaning here is that it is not waiting to, there's no object there waiting to arise, no? But rather an object suddenly arises, and having arisen, having disappeared, the object is not going to another place and gathering there. Now, what this means is that an object disappears immediately, disappears because of certain conditions. So, the emphasis here is that an object does not arise slowly. It doesn't take 5 minutes for an object to arise, and it doesn't take 5 minutes for an object to disappear. Now, please, some of you, or actually most of you, almost 90%, have experienced this the insight knowledge and the preceding insight knowledges. Now, during the preceding insight knowledge, the third insight knowledge, the knowledge of comprehension, Sammasana Jnana, how do the objects arise? Who remembers? Yes. And if you think of a pain, frequently they arise slowly. And so a meditator then has time, plenty of time, to carefully observe this object arising. And then frequently, not all the time, but frequently, the same object, it will last for a while, at least a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes or so. And then, having lasted for a while, it will, what? Disappear? Yes. And it will disappear slowly or quickly? Frequently, slowly. Frequently. No, it doesn't know. I'm saying frequently because sometimes it does, or an object may disappear quickly. And so in the insight knowledge of the fast, arising, passing away formations, it's not like this. All of a sudden, quickly, suddenly, the object arises, and immediately, quickly, suddenly, it disappears. And the next point is, does one have plenty of time to observe it? No? Not so much. Yes? Manda, you agree? Yes? So, the difference here is, the difference between the fourth insight knowledge and the third insight knowledge is, in the third insight knowledge, as pointed out just now, a meditator has usually plenty of time to look at the object, to study it. No? So in terms of the pain, the pain doesn't disappear quickly, and therefore your says it's a hell, and and then eventually, having lasted for quite some time, persisted for quite some time, it disappears. But in the fourth insight knowledge, an object arises, the middle portion is missing, one is not a meditator is not seeing it clearly, and the attention then is again on the ending portion, on the passing away. No, this is a characteristic, a very, very basic characteristic, probably the most, one of the most fundamental characteristics of this particular insight knowledge. Now, there is, and then there is yet another thing to understand. There is no old object, and all there is just one new object arising or coming and going one after another. So one object, new object arises and it disappears. And then another object arises and disappears. And it's not, to make this very clear, it's not some object arising, disappearing, the same object then arising again, no? Which would be an old object. It's not like this. No. And this becomes very clear. Again, when we contrast this with the third insight knowledge, then when you think of your pains, then what happens? Huh? What happens? Pardon me?
Just come again and again.
Yes, exactly. So you may have a certain pain, it arises, it lasts for a while, it intensifies, it de-intensifies, and then it disappears. And you're happy for a few moments, and then the same pain arises again, re-arises. No? So this is quite different from, by nature, or quite different from in terms of pattern. And in Burmese, this nature of Udiyabhaya, or of objects in Udiyabhaya jnana, is ku, pye, ku, yeah. And I'll explain. Ku is short for aku. Aku means now. And aku, pye means to arise. And pye means disappear or dissolve. So, now arising, now disappearing. Now, this is what happens in Udiyabhaya jnana. Quickly, fast, suddenly, coming, going. And another, a characteristic that we've mentioned already is seeing the beginning and the ending of an object, and the middle portion is missing, mostly. And in terms of the 7 purifications, as given in the Visuddhimagga, this matured stage of Udiyabhaya jnana corresponds to the purification by knowledge and vision of the way, in the Pali language known as Patipada Jnana Dasana Visuddhi. Right. And maybe for further explanation for those who don't quite understand, the progress in one's meditation practice can be described by means of different classification systems. One classification system is the system of the insight knowledges and the so-called jnanas, and there are how many of those? 16. And the Udiyabhaya is number? And Samasana is number? 3. Okay, correct. And then we have another classification system, and these are the 7 purifications. And so the whole path can be explained by way of the purifications. However, this classification system is not as detailed as the system the system of the 16 insight knowledges. And then there's yet another one, the 3 parinyas, and so that's even more gross. The Parinyas. Parinyas, those are the three understandings. Yeah, it's more gross. More. Since there's only three, it's not as detailed. No, it's not as detailed as the 16 insight knowledges. Now, the Visuddhimagga has this to say about the mature phase of Uddiyana, namely, but why does the meditator again pursue knowledge of rise and fall? Now, here this sentence needs some explanation, especially the part again. But why does the meditator again pursue knowledge of rise and fall? The reason here, the explanation here is because previously there was mention of the tender stage of rise and fall. No? And so the writer of the Visuddhimagga asks, why does one, having contemplated rise and fall already, the tender stage of it, no, please, for better understanding, here this expression rise and fall is not necessarily limited to only the rising and falling of the abdomen, but it means or it refers to the rise of objects and the fall of objects, the appearance of phenomena and the disappearance of phenomena in that sense. No, and it's just by coincidence that Mahasi Sayadaw has chosen the rising and falling movements of the abdomen as the primary object. Please keep this in mind to avoid unnecessary confusion. Otherwise, the Buddha also probably would qualify as the inventor of the rising and falling movement of the abdomen as a form of meditation. Now, the answer to the question is, so why does one have to pursue the knowledge of rise and fall again? And how would you answer? Pardon me? Very good. Your answers are very good. To understand the nature, to better understand the nature of not only anicca, but also dukkha and anatta. And I'll read out to you what is given here in the Visuddhimagga in its original words. So to observe the characteristics, the three characteristics in brackets, and the knowledge of rise and fall already dealt with. Remember, as a meditator, you already dealt with it in the third insight knowledge. That's when these three characteristics arise for the first time. But they're seen in a rather rough manner. And so, the knowledge of rise and fall already dealt with, being disabled by the 10 imperfections. So, the explanation here is, when a meditator goes from the third insight knowledge, then moves into the tender phase of the fourth insight knowledge, the imperfections of insight arise. And since these imperfections of insight tend to be what? Rather predominant or not predominant? Rather predominant, very big predominant. Yes, right. Pardon me, more? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's it. And because of this, because they're so pleasurable, so fascinating, so interesting, and they feel so good, most or almost every meditator gets hooked to them to some extent or other. And as a result of it, the three characteristics are not seen all that clearly. No, they're kind of in the background and no longer in the foreground. And so the explanation is, the knowledge of rise and fall already dealt with, being disabled by the 10 imperfections, was not capable of observing the three characteristics in their true nature. But once freed from imperfections, the knowledge is able to do so. So, the meditator should pursue it again here in order to observe the characteristics. So I'll put in the necessary words. So the meditator should pursue the knowledge of rise and fall again here in order to observe the three characteristics, to understand them better and better. Now, one more explanation in this connection. Our understanding of the three characteristics takes place in a gradual fashion. So, the first understanding of the characteristics arises in which knowledge? No. The third. No. People may have some theoretical understanding of or some idea of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, but this is just the theory. In practice, a real understanding of anicca, dukkha, and anatta arises only with the beginning of the third insight knowledge, and that is the reason why true, genuine vipassana jnana starts only with the third insight knowledge. The first and second insight knowledge are just precursors, and they do not, strictly speaking, do not qualify as vipassana yet. Because remember the term Sayādaw frequently defines the word as vipassana as what? Yes, exactly. Seeing in different modes, or in various modes, and like we say, in the modes of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Now, in the first and second insight knowledge, these three characteristics are not seen.
So,
no.
In the first insight knowledge, when a meditator sees mind and thinks that he sees an answer of...
It's just imagination. It's just imagination. Yeah, right. It's just a conceptual, it's just a theoretical knowledge, and it's not practice. No. And during the interviews, that's one of the points, one of the points where I have to correct the meditator. And because it has nothing to do with reality, with real observation at that point. No. And it's in one's meditation practice, it's important to keep one's practice free from concepts as much as possible. Put all your concepts that you have, put them aside when you actually do your sitting or your walking practice. And always give preference to a bare observation or a bare awareness of what's really happening there. Don't let some of the conceptual knowledge influence your experiences. Now, about this matured stage of Udayabaya Jnana. Purification by knowledge and vision of the way, namely this Patipada Jnana Dasana, starts with the matured phase of the knowledge of arising passing way, which sets in after the meditator has dispelled the deception posed by the imperfections of insight. So this you know already. Either through his or her own unaided efforts or with the help of the teacher's instructions. And usually, most of the meditator tends to become a victim of these imperfections of insight. If a teacher would not say anything, would not warn the meditator, the meditator is bound to get stuck in these imperfections of insight. And this is one of the reasons why meditators who practice by themselves without a teacher tend to take forever in their practice, because they get stuck there. And when they practice by themselves, they have all these pleasurable experiences, seeing lights, and then having a very sharp knowledge and experiencing lots and lots of joy and happiness and tranquility, peace, and so on. Of course, this feels good. And so, naturally, the mind goes back to the same experiences over and over and over again, but there's no more progress. And the function of a teacher at this point must be to inform or to mention, how to put this, to explain to the student that there is an obvious danger here and not to fall into the pit. And these instructions, these advice has to be given. Be given again and again and again, for as long as it takes the meditator to pass through these imperfections. And frequently, or sometimes meditators complain, you're again and again you're telling me the same thing. Again and again, the meditators fall into the same pit, and that's why the instruction has to be repeated, because these imperfections are so attractive. So a meditator cannot be reminded often enough to be careful. Eventually, if a meditator, then if it's the information that she sinks into the mind, and then the meditator manages to detach from these experiences, yes, then he or she will have quick progress. But this may take a few days. So it slows down the practice to some extent. So anyway, the meditator then obtains this purification, namely Patipada Jnana Dasana Visuddhi, in the course of reflecting on the meditation object with the pure, undiluted mind now well on its way to true insight. And the knowledge of contemplation of arising and passing away is defined as follows. And this is a definition from the Patisamvidamagga from its first chapter. There it says, the wisdom in contemplating the change of present phenomena is the knowledge of contemplation of arising and passing away. Now, I'll repeat the sentence, because it's important. The wisdom in contemplating the change of present phenomena is the knowledge of contemplation of arising, passing away. Now, when an object arises and passes away, would you say this object is unchanging or changing? Changing. No? Obviously. If the object were to be there all the time, then we would not use the term change. So, however, let me point out that the change seen here in this insight knowledge, of course, is different from the previous one. In the previous one, we see the arising, we see the persistency of an object, the duration of it, and we see it disappearing. Now, we just see it come, we see it go. And then the next few words in the sentence, we're still in contemplating the change of present phenomena. Now, apart from present phenomena, there could also be what kind of phenomena? Past and future. Now, is correct. When does a meditator, during which insight knowledge, does the meditator reflect on past or future phenomena? Pardon? Yes, it may happen in that insight knowledge, yes. And which other knowledge? You know it, it's pardon? There's part of it, right? In the third insight knowledge, now, the explanation. The explanation is as follows. In the third insight knowledge, usually all three tenses are present. Namely, first of all, there's attention to the present, and so seeing the phenomena in the present moment, and then by by inferential knowledge, a meditator will conclude or deduct. Just like the phenomena arise now, last for a while and disappear, so too, they must have done the same thing in the past. And likewise, they will do the same in the future. So, part of the third insight knowledge is, or are the three tenses of time. So, starting with the present tense, or the very present, and then an excursion into the past and an excursion into the future by inferential deduction, or by inference. Now, so there's some amount of thinking involved in this, and this is all right. It's no problem. That's part of the practice. And what this means is that the mind is not absolutely, or it is not exclusively in the present, right? And this then leads us to the fourth insight knowledge, which has the characteristic of contemplating the change of what? Present phenomena. There you go. And so there's a huge difference here between the third insight knowledge and the fourth insight knowledge. Please take note of this. And so these two things here are, according to the Patisambhidamagga, or the essential points of the definition as mentioned in the Patisambhidamagga. So I'll repeat the sentence. The wisdom in contemplating the change of present phenomena is the knowledge of contemplation of arising and passing away. And maybe just as a footnote here, when reading the Visuddhimagga or Patisambhidamagga, then it's worth it to pay really close attention to each and every word that is given in the text. Because sometimes these definitions are very short and to the point. And it is by contemplating formations as present phenomena that this particular knowledge is attained. So once again, Udayabaya Jnana arises and comes to maturity by contemplating present phenomena as opposed to the third insight knowledge, which where one contemplates phenomena of the three tenses. Now, this is a necessary step for seeing the change of formations, the alteration of the present condition. In order to see impermanence, one has to perceive the characteristic of passing away. And for passing away to be seen, the event of arising must also be seen. Now, to explain this a little bit further, when an object miraculously somehow or other is there and it lasts for quite some time, then do we say it's permanent or impermanent? No, that object is permanent then. It's permanent. No? However, when that same object, when we see it arise, and it lasts for a while, and then we see it disappear, then we say it's impermanent.
So if we say it's impermanent when it's actually there, it's just the impermanent knowledge that we say is impermanent?
No, early on what I meant is, if an object here, this is the object. Its arising is not seen, its dissolution is not seen. And only the ongoing of the object is seen. It's permanent, right? And so it's only when a meditator sees this arising, the lasting, and so the continuity of it for a while, it's not forever but for a while, and then the dissolution of it, that we refer to this as impermanence. Then another aspect of impermanence is to see an object briefly. Well, how to use this? I don't know. Oh well, no, take it. Let's. So, what is it? Okay. So, of course, there's something inside my fist, no? So now, arisen and passed away. No, it comes, it goes. It doesn't last forever. Now, this phenomenon, do we refer to it as permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, of course. And so that is what is meant here. So, in order to perceive the characteristic of passing away, one has to wait a minute. Sorry. To see impermanence, one has to perceive the characteristic of passing away, and for passing away to be seen, the event of arising must also be seen. The knowledge of arising and passing away involves the seeing of both arising and dissolution, not the middle. At this stage, the process of arising and dissolution becomes manifest to the meditator in the very object of meditation that he or she has taken up. So this can be seen with regard to which object? Which object or objects? Rising and falling of the abdomen and? Yes, and? Walking sensation. Mental states, yes? Anything else? Three characteristics? No, the answer is, it's all what you say is all correct. The answer is, this applies to all phenomena of the five aggregates. Whatever you have in terms of phenomena arising in the body and in the mind, they will all behave according to the same characteristics, or same pattern. Now, when a meditator first experiences this Uddiyabhaya Jnana, how does he or she experience it? In the mature state, yes. In the mature state. Yours? In a clear manner? Oh, bravely you're saying in a clear manner. Oh, many times. Oh, especially beginning meditators who haven't practiced that long yet, they may get a taste of this Uddiyabhaya Jnana maybe only within one sitting for just 5 minutes or so. Maybe just with arising and falling, just briefly, for a few moments or so. They see how the rising movement of the abdomen comes in, or a certain sensation in the rising movement comes and goes. The same thing for the falling, and maybe a few more times, and that's it. And the meditator may easily miss it, and may not even realize that this is a crucial thing at this point in the practice. Yes, even as a mature state. The first time a meditator experiences this Uddiyabhaya Jnana, it may easily happen like this, especially somebody, meditators whose faculties are not all that sharp. So then, the rise and fall of phenomena is seen at the most with maybe just the rise and fall of the abdomen, and so and then only for a few moments, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes or so. And then maybe back to the imperfections, or seeing other objects in an ordinary way. And it is only with further practice. Now, maybe let me add. What I said applies, of course, not to every meditator. There are meditators with keen faculties who see the arising and passing away of phenomena of formations with regard to many objects. They see it not just with regard to rise and fall, but also with regard to pain, or with regard to mental state, or with regard to light, certain lights, seeing lights, bright white lights in the mind, and so on and so forth. Now,